So what do you think about biology grade 8 students? Easy, hard, interesting, boring? So let's see. I want all of you to start and to vote for this. So here we have 6 interesting and we have 3 easy. Let's see others. What do we have? What do you think about biology? Biology, easy, hard, interesting, so you can choose. You have 4 choices, easy or hard. You can choose interesting or boring. So please answer this in the questions. Okay, Ali said by the chat, it's so easy. Gabrielle said it's so interesting. Okay, great, great, great. I'm really happy to hear this from you guys. So here we have 7 interesting and the 3 easy. Okay, interesting is winning right now. So here we have 7 interesting and 3 easy. Hadi Sufan says interesting. Great, great. Thank you. Thank you. Very good. Nice to hear this. Here we have 7 interesting and 3 easy. No one is saying it's hard. So I can't know. You can say it's hard, or you can say simply it's boring, for example. So you can answer this. It's fun to learn. Okay, great, great. Next time we can do something nice. Other than I already answered by interesting, easy, interesting. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. Here to hear. Really glad to hear this from you. Okay, here we have Ghadi, for example, that entered the session right now. Ghadi, please, you can enter through this session, through this link. Press on the link and answer the question. The question is appearing here. What do you think about biology? So press the link in the chat, Ghadi. You entered right now. So press the link in the chat and answer the question, please. Till now we have 10. Okay, till now we have 10. So here we have 11, 7 interesting and 4 easy. Okay, great, 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 great. So really happy to hear this, really happy. Okay, so here we're going to start with our lesson, which is talking about the specific immune response. Be ready, guys, in order to start. Here we start about the specific immune response. What do you know about the specific immune response? Let's start step by step. Here we determine the case of activation of T lymphocytes. We will study the steps of the activation of T lymphocytes. We will identify what the meaning of a cell-mediated immune response and humoral immune response, and also the cases of activation of B lymphocytes. Specifically, we said that the first line of defense in the body represents the natural barriers. The second line of defense is the non-specific immune response like inflammation and phagocytosis that we talked about last week. While what would happen when the second line of defense fails? We will have the third line of defense. This third line of defense is called the specific immune response. First, what are the cases of activation of T lymphocyte? When T lymphocyte they are activated, when they work, when they interfere and help us inside our body. So, case of activation number 1, we have viral infection. When we are infected by a virus, T lymphocytes they are activated and they come and they work here. Second case, when T lymphocytes are activated, it's the graft rejection. When the graft is rejected. So when the graft is rejected, T lymphocyte is activated. When it's accepted, they are not activated. When the graft is rejected, like the case of allograft or xenograft, so they are activated. So till now, we have 2 cases for the activation of T lymphocyte. First case, case of viral infection, and second case, case of graft rejection. Okay, like the allograft, as I said. Steps. What are the steps? Steps of the activation of T lymphocyte. You have to study them by order. So specific T lymphocytes, they approach toward the target cell. They approach toward the infected cell. They approach toward it and they move toward it. Next step, the T lymphocytes, they adhere and bind to the infected cells. Using what? We said that T lymphocytes, they have T cell receptors, which is called TCR. Third step, T lymphocytes, they give the target cell a killer kiss. The T lymphocytes, they kiss the target cell. This kiss is going to be killer one, so it's called killer kiss. This killer curse will perforate. What the meaning of perforate? Will create holes inside the cell. Will create holes, meaning that this is the introduction to its death. Okay, so let's repeat the steps of the activation of T lymphocytes. Number one, specific T lymphocyte they approach. Number two, adhere to it using the PCR. Number three, giving it a killer kiss. This kiss will kill it. Why? It perforated. It create holes inside the cell. يعني بتبخشها للسيل تعمل لها holes تعمل بقلبها فتحات للسيلز and this target cell will die. First stage, the T lymphocytes the approach toward the infected cell. Second stage, gets in direct contact and bind to it using the TCR T cell receptors. And the third step, give it a killer kiss, and this kiss will kill it. Okay? So type of the immune response carried out by T lymphocyte, we said that T lymphocyte they carry specific immune response. What do we call the name? The name of the immune response carried out by T lymphocyte is called cell-mediated immune response. So whenever we have T lymphocytes, so the type of the immune response is called cell-mediated immune response. And to be more specific, specific cell-mediated immune response. Therefore, as a conclusion, T lymphocytes they carry out specific immune response, which is called specific cell-mediated immune response, where the T lymphocytes they kill the cells. In both cases, which cases? Graft rejection and viral infection. So I will repeat this. T lymphocytes they carry a immune response which is called special. It's specific. B and T they carry a immune response which is specific. So in this lesson, it's about the specific immune response. We have T lymphocytes, so we call the immune response specific cell-mediated immune response. Okay, so here T lymphocytes they kill the infected cells or the target cells. B lymphocytes, what are the cases of activation of B lymphocytes? B lymphocytes they are activated in the case of blood transfusion. For example, I'm as blood group A. I transferred blood to, let's say, to Maya. Maya with a blood group, let's say, B. I'm blood group A. Maya is blood group B. So agglutination will occur. Agglutination will have secretion of antibodies. That's why B lymphocytes they are activated. So case of blood transfusion. Also, in another case of bacterial infection. For example, Celine has a bacteria in her stomach, let's say. So which cells they are, or which lymphocytes they are activated? B lymphocytes. So B lymphocytes, they are activated in both cases, Yasmail. In case of bacterial infection and case of blood transfusion. Transfusion of blood from one person to another. Okay, so this is a green antibody battling and having a war with a red antigen. Type of the immune response, always we said B and T. The type is specific immune response. So B and T, keep it in your mind. B and T lymphocytes, they carry a specific immune response. What's the meaning of specific? It depends on the identity of the intruder. While, if you remember last week, we talked about what? We talked about the non-specific immune response, meaning that it doesn't depend on the identity of the intruder. While here, the B lymphocytes and the T lymphocytes, both of them, they are carrying a specific immune response, meaning that they depend on the identity of the intruder. So here, the name of the immune response carried out by B lymphocytes is called humoral immune response. So I will repeat this. Immune response type is always specific. The name of the immune response carried out by B is called humoral immune response or humoral immune response. So here, as a conclusion, B lymphocytes, they carry out specific humoral immune response. What do B lymphocytes do? We know that B lymphocytes, they secrete antibodies against the non-self where into the serum. In both cases, which cases? Case of blood transfusion and case of bacterial infection. So as a refresh for your memory, you have to know that T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes, both of them, they carry specific immune response. T lymphocytes, it's called cell-mediated immune response. They kill the cells using their T cell receptors, abbreviated as TCR. While B lymphocytes also they carry specific immune response, which is called humoral immune response. What do B lymphocytes do? They secrete antibodies. So, any question? We have secretion of antibodies. Which cells they are working? They are the B lymphocytes. So what do we call? It's called humoral immune response. And to be more exact, it's called specific humoral immune response. Okay, this is everything related to the session. I'm going to make a quick revision about it. So, cases of activation of T lymphocytes, as I said, they are the case of graft rejection and case of viral infection. So, graft rejection, like the case of allograft, for example, while steps, and I said that the T lymphocytes they approach toward the infected cell. Number two, the T lymphocytes they adhere to the infected cell using the TCR. Number three, it give it a killer kiss. It kills the cells, and this kiss will perforate it, will create holes, will create pores, see the pores, and these pores will lead to the death of the cell. Name of the immune response carried out by T lymphocyte, it's cell-mediated immune response, type specific. So as a conclusion, you can study this. T lymphocytes will carry out specific cell-mediated immune response, where T lymphocytes they kill cells in both cases. Cases of activation of B lymphocytes, so cases of blood transfusion and case of bacterial infection. We said that the type of the immune response, always the type for B and T, they are specific. The name, it's humoral immune response. So as a conclusion, and we can study this, B lymphocytes, they carry out specific humoral immune response. What do B lymphocytes do? They secrete antibodies to kill the non-self, while T lymphocytes, they kill the other cells using their T cell receptors, TCR.